If you fancy taking a sightseeing tour on some of your favorite Nintendo games, you are going to want to check out noclip website. The nifty model viewer lets you fly around and explore data mined maps and levels from a wide range of Nintendo titles old and new, including favorites like Super Mario Galaxy, The Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, Super Paper Mario, Mario Kart Wii, Banjo-Kazooie, and Splatoon. It even contains a few selections from decidedly non-Nintendo offerings, like Psychonauts, Dark Souls, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. The open source project is being led by Gamasutra, who has been documenting his progress and posting fun tidbits on Twitter. Seriously, go take a look. Well, it's well worth checking out if you are in the mood for a nostalgia trip. The project also offers a fascinating glimpse behind the development curtain, letting you see familiar levels, including character models and animations, from a new perspective to better understand how they were brought together. You can take a peek for yourself by following this link. Bon appetit! Paul Villasque, Senior Economy Designer at King, and Pietro Guardaccioni is Senior Director of Envelope Design at King. Hero was an action RPG that was developed by King and soft-launched during 2016 in different countries in Asia. In the game, you could choose among 3 heroes, warrior, mage or archer, to play through levels that consisted of sets of successive combats against groups of enemies of various types. Although the game was cancelled before making it to a global release, the design challenges that were faced during its development gave us some valuable learnings about designing mobile RPGs. The purpose of this article is to collect our experiences while designing some of the systems in the game. The main loop of the game was rather simple. By completing quests, players accumulated gold that could be spent buying new items. Stronger equipment increased the overall power of the hero, which in turn allowed quests of increasing difficulty to be played. With the simple main loop described above, the overall player experience was determined essentially by 3 game systems. A combat system, consisting of all the elements that contribute to the outcome of a combat and their interrelations. As in many RPGs, these elements include player stats like attack, health and defense, chance of dealing critical damage, elemental or splash damage, etc. The outcome of a combat is determined through the combat equations that relate the status of heroes to those of enemies. For instance, given the attack power of a hero and a monster's health, the equations of combat determine the number of hits it will take to kill that monster. A progression system, which consists of the set of rules that determine how the different hero and monster stats grow as the player progresses through the game. In Hero, progression was mainly driven by gear. The status of a character were determined by the gear he had equipped. The higher the level of an item, the more it would contribute to the character's stats. The current level of a hero determined the level of the gear that the hero could equip, and hence the stats that the hero would have. The chest system, which was a random reward system, through which gear was delivered. The chest system consisted of the different types of chests present in the game and the rules to which they were subjected, job price, frequency, item probabilities. There were chests of many types, each of which had its chances of delivering items of a given rarity. Each of the systems described here could be analyzed on its own. However, the 3 systems were highly interdependent on each other. For example, since the progression system was essentially driven by gear and gear was obtained by collecting chests, this meant that the chest system was the core driver of progression. Setting up the right chest rules and their job frequency was crucial. to fuel an appropriate progression rate for the heroes. On the other hand, the progression system determined how the different hero and enemy stats scale. This in turn determined the outcomes of a combat. Hence, the combat system had to be carefully designed to accommodate the specific character progression we had designed. Finally, the outcome of a combat determined the chests that a player was going to get, which again connects to the progression system. Once we understood these interrelations, it became evident that we needed a way to explore the consequences on the overall player experience that arose from each game system, and its impact on the rest of the systems. We achieved this through a combination of mathematical modeling, prototyping tools, and simulations. In the following, we do like to review some of these approaches. Combat systems are at the heart of any action RPG. When a combat system is coupled to a progression system, they both need to be carefully designed to be compatible with each other. Otherwise, it is possible that a combat that seems to be balanced at some stage in the progression behaves in a completely different way at later stages. To understand this, let's consider a minimal combat system in which a hero monster are characterized only by 2 stats, attack and health. During combat, the hero will have to attack the monster several times until it runs out of health and dies. The number of hits it will take for the monster to die is given by the ratio NHEAH, wherein is the number of hits. Hit is the health of the enemy and dot is the attack of the hero. The higher the enemy health, the larger the number of hits it will take to kill him. The stronger the hero, the smaller the number of hits it will take him to beat the enemy. Although health and attack determine the outcome of a combat, these stats are hidden to the user. The only variable that the user perceives in practice is the number of hits that it will take to kill an enemy, or to get killed by it, and not the attack or the health on their own. Hence, we can say that the sensation of combat is given by the number of hits it takes to kill I. On different lines, the hero and enemy stats evolve following the progression system. This means that the parameters at hand depend on the hero level and the enemy level respectively. Hence, the number of hits it will take for a hero of level X to kill an enemy of level Y will be a function of both hero level and enemy level.
NX YHEYAHX.
A main requirement in the design of the game was to preserve the experience of combat through the whole progression. This essentially meant that a hero of level 5 fighting a monster of level 7 would have the same combat perception as if the hero was level 65 and fought an enemy of level 67. As long as the differences in hero and enemy levels were equal, the combat experience should remain invariant. This requirement can be expressed in a mathematical way by demanding that the function giving the number of hits depends only on the difference in the levels x, y, and not on the levels themselves.
NX Y NX Y.
This requirement imposes strong constraints in both the progression and combat systems. For a combat equation based on the ratio between health and attack, scale invariant combat requires stats to grow at a geometric rate. This means that the functions that give the player and monster stats have an exponential form of x, exp of x, and y, exp y, where a and h are the base values for the hero attack and enemy health respectively. The parameter sets the scale for the growth of stats from level to level. Plugging the previous expressions for the hand into the formula for n, x, y, we obtain n, x, y, h, exp, x, y, which clearly depends on the difference of levels X and not on the levels themselves. This ensures that the combat experience of a player will remain balanced at any scale. More realistic combat systems include aspects like damage mitigation. Critical hits are elemental damage. Special care has to be taken when setting up their corresponding equations of combat such that they depend only on the difference XY. Once we had a robust model for combat that would ensure the right scaling, we built a combat simulator in Python that calculated the number of hits it would take to kill a given enemy, or to get killed by him. We used the tool to explore different values of the hero and enemy stats appearing in the combat equations. For each set of values, we visualized how the combat experience scaled when facing enemies of higher or lower levels. This allowed us to balance the hero and enemy states, and ensure that the combat experience satisfied all design requirements.